The year is 1647. Listen closely to the silence. A heavy grey fog clings to the River Thames, muffling the world in a damp, cold shroud. It is the 25th of December, but the air is eerily quiet. The great bells of St. Paul's do not ring out across the city. They hang motionless in their towers. The heavy oak doors of London's churches are bolted shut, their thresholds unworn by the faithful. In this era of stark devotion and ironclad piety, the most sacred day of the Christian calendar has been erased, deemed a corruption, a stain upon the soul of a nation. It is a winter of enforced silence, where the very act of celebration has become a crime. This strange, quiet Christmas did not spring from a vacuum. Its roots stretch back through the centuries, deep into the soil of the ancient world. Long before the first carols were sung, the Romans marked this time of year with a festival of chaos and joyful abandon, Saturnalia. It was a week of sanctioned misrule, a time when the rigid social order was gleefully inverted. Masters would pour wine for their slaves, and servants would sit at the head of the table. Gambling, normally forbidden, was openly practiced in the streets. The entire world, for a brief, glorious moment, was turned up. This spirit of festive anarchy, this tradition of misrule echoed through the ages, embedding itself in the boisterous, often raucous Christmas celebrations of medieval Europe, where a lord of misrule would be appointed to preside over the season's merrymaking. But by the mid-17th century, a new power had risen in England, one that saw no joy in such traditions. To the Puritans, who now held sway in Parliament under the stern leadership of Oliver Cromwell, these festivities were not just frivolous, they were a dangerous remnant of paganism and popish superstition. Christmas, with its feasting, its drinking, and its heathen decorations of holly and ivy, was seen as a moral disease. And so, in 1644, Parliament passed a law to cure it. Christmas was officially abolished. Shops were ordered to remain open, and the day was to be treated as any other working day, a time for sober reflection and labor, not for sinful indulgence. Imagine the scene in the years that followed. As the day we now associate with warmth and family approached, a palpable tension would settle over the streets of London. Parliamentarian soldiers, grim-faced and watchful, patrolled the winding lanes and alleys. Their mission was not to keep the peace, but to enforce piety. They were hunting for the scent of heresy on the winter air. If a patrol smelled the rich aroma of a goose roasting on a spit, they had the authority to burst into the home, confiscate the forbidden feast, and deliver a stern lecture, if not a fine. The humble Christmas pie, what we now call a mince pie, filled with fruits and spices that symbolized the gifts of the Magi, was a particular target. To be caught baking or eating one was to be accused of superstitious behavior, an act of rebellion against God and Parliament. You could be arrested, your name recorded in a parish ledger as a troublemaker, a holdout from a less godly time. The season of goodwill had become a season of suspicion, where the simple act of preparing a special meal could land you in the stocks. Visuals of this silent winter flicker like a half-remembered dream. We see them in faded woodcuts from the era. Stern-faced Puritan soldiers, their helmets glinting in the low light, pulling down garlands of holly from a public market. We see them tearing down a maypole, that joyful symbol of community, hacking it to pieces as if it were an enemy combatant. We can trace their patrols on antique, hand-drawn maps of 17th century London. The city's familiar landmarks shrouded in an artist's rendering of mist and shadow. But then, a contrast. Through a crack in a shuttered window, we glimpse another world. Inside, the warm, flickering glow of candlelight illuminates a small gathering. Faces are etched with a mixture of fear and quiet defiance. They share a small, illicit pie, their whispers lost in the crackle of the hearthfire. These secret celebrations, hidden away in cellars and back rooms, were small acts of profound resistance. They were a testament to the fact that while the government could ban a festival, it could not extinguish the human desire for light and communion in the darkest time of the year. This period of forced austerity, however, reveals a surprising truth. The traditional Christmas that these Puritans sought to destroy is not the one we cherish today. The Christmas we know, the one centered on the family. The decorated tree in the corner of the living room, the gift-giving, the turkey dinner is not some timeless, ancient tradition passed down from the mists of antiquity. It is, for the most part, an invention. It was born much later, in the 1840s, a product of the Victorian era's unique anxieties and aspirations. The Industrial Revolution had transformed Britain, pulling people from their villages and into sprawling anonymous cities. It created immense wealth, but also immense poverty and a profound sense of social isolation. It was in this context of industrial loneliness that writers and thinkers began to self-consciously craft a new kind of Christmas. Queen Victoria and her German husband, Prince Albert, played a crucial role when they popularized the Christmas tree, bringing a German custom into the heart of British life. But it was perhaps Charles Dickens, more than anyone, who became the architect of the modern Christmas through his timeless story. A Christmas Carol *. He didn't just tell a tale of ghosts and redemption, he painted a powerful vision of what Christmas should be. He championed it as a time for family, for charity, for looking a fellow passenger to the grave as if they were fellow passengers to the grave. and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. He effectively rehabilitated Christmas, rebranding it not as a season of raucous misrule, but as a cure for the social ills of his time, a balm for a society fractured by industry and inequality. The Christmas we celebrate is less a legacy of medieval England and more a legacy of Victorian England as longing for connection. And so, we return to the silence. We drift back from the bustling gaslit streets of Dickens's London to the cold, quiet lanes of Cromwell's Commonwealth. The grand narrative of history often focuses on the laws, the battles, the decrees of powerful men. But the true enduring story is often found in the smaller gestures, in the quiet acts of hope that persist when all seems lost. The story of the Forbidden Christmas is a profound reflection on the unyielding human need for light in the darkness, even when the law forbade it. When soldiers patrolled the streets and neighbors spied on neighbors, people still found a way. They lit a single candle and placed it in a window, a tiny flickering star in a vast and oppressive night. They gathered in secret to share a piece of spiced pie, a taste of sweetness in a bitter time. They proved a simple, eternal truth, that the spirit of hope, of community, of wanting to find a glimmer of warmth in the cold heart of winter, cannot be legislated away. It can be driven underground, forced into the shadows, but it can never truly be extinguished. It will always be there, waiting for the return of the light.